if we not eat at the homes, we can even come here and the principal will give us some porridge though, and we will eat good. So school feeding program is so good. We can eat everything we want, even with milk. That's good.
It's a happy day for thousands here today, and with reason. For many graduates, the road here has been tough as they struggle to attend lectures, complete assignments, and pass their exams. For the parents and guardians of the graduates, it is equally a new phase in their lives because the investments are poised to start making returns. Also, to the government, the academics and administration staff, it is a time for a pat on the back for a job well done. Because these men and women are now equipped academically and professionally to commence their contribution in building the nation. For many, with their broad smiles and envisioned hopes of prosperity and good life, the anatomy of the road and path traversed by some of these young men and women has not been a rosy one, to say the least. It has been hard times, as written by Charles Dickens in The Tale of Two Cities. As for many, the challenges have included battling hunger and poverty. Author Stephen Covey once said, "Begin with the end in mind." Does a similar sentiment drive the Namibian school feeding program?
The end that I'm having in mind for this program is to end hunger in its entirety. And that's not only my vision for the school feeding program, that's the ultimate goal of the government, to end hunger in our entire Namibian society. It's also important to improve concentration and focus of the learners in school, also to improve performance of the learners as well as the progression of the learners in school. We are also aiming as a ministry and as a government to scale up the school feeding program, as is also already reflected in our Harambee Prosperity Plan, with the objective definitely to achieve quality education. And not only quality education, but sustainable, lifelong and equitable education for all Namibian children. It's very important that we develop our human capital to attain the necessary skills for a prosperous nation at the end of the day. Hence, the school feeding program, in my mind, is a very critical and very important program.
Throughout the long years of struggle for independence, education was always regarded as a key to addressing poverty in a free Namibia. At independence, though, school enrollment rates, pass rates, and secondary school completion rates were mostly poor in previously disadvantaged communities. Equally, the school dropout rates were high even in primary schools. To address these challenges, the government prioritized and distilled its educational reform agenda into 4 broad goals: access, equity, quality, and democracy. But widespread poverty and hunger were found to be fundamental constraints which needed to be addressed. If Namibia was to achieve its educational goals, introducing a national school feeding system was the globally proven solution to address hunger and malnutrition. This would then encourage school attendance, learner retention, and promote learning.
In the early 90s, I was approached by a gentleman who represented the World Food Program with a proposal of providing a snack, midday snack, to school children. I suggested that we pilot the whole program with communities who do not produce cereals, meaning particular communities in the south and also central Namibia. Initially, that was the idea.
The government of Namibia, with technical assistance from the United Nations World Food Programme (WFP), initiated and developed a national school feeding program which has its roots in a pilot program introduced in 1991.
By 1991, it was just a pilot. And then 1992, that's when we now went to expand it to well over, I think we started with 4 regions. And remember, by then we were just emerging as a sovereign state. And the country was not divided in the way that is currently divided. We only had 7 educational regions and not 14 as they stand now. So the 4 that we are talking about are actually 4 that have now been broken into something like an additional 4 regions. So it has expanded. But we wanted to do that in order for us to understand the impact. But the impact goes beyond the individual learner because it also ushers in another element, which was basically to link what is happening at school and what is happening at home. So it began to make us understand as to if by giving this feeding, there is improvement in the performance of the learners.
But as the time went on, we realized that there was a spin-off impact on school feeding, meaning that many children were now attending school because of this snack they were provided with. And we thought that to encourage school attendance, we should extend the program throughout the country.
The school feeding pilot program also emphasized on hygiene and hand washing before meals as an important routine to encourage a healthy lifestyle.
WFP has for so many years recognized the importance of school feeding and has been advocating for scaling up of school feeding programs as a way of, addressing short-term hunger in schools. Nearly all countries in the world have school meals program. And when we look at statistics, we are looking at close to 368 million children from kindergartens and secondary schools who are receiving school feeding. And in some countries, WFP has been providing food at school for about 20 million children in 80 countries. But in other countries, WFP has supported national governments to take full ownership of the school feeding program. And Namibia is one of those countries where WFP has really supported the government to make that transition from international assistance to a program that is fully owned and supported by the government.
School feeding program started in southern Namibia. Miss Maria Kisting was a teacher in the early years of school feeding program in Namibia. At the time, she was stationed at Didi Gwebe Primary School in Hartab region. She shares the most memorable aspect of school feeding program in those early years. How does it compare to school feeding today?
The school is one of the disadvantaged schools in the region, and I saw certain things that was necessary for the school, and we as a staff ran raise funds, for example, to have a refrigerator, and then also whether we can buy some sugar and milk for the learners to eat the porridge. So, but at that time it was a rainy season, and a lot of rain fell in Marinta, and the zinc building was damaged. We had to cook in the open air. Now at the moment we try to erect another building for the learners. So the parents were very eager and very pleased to have a feeding program for the learners. We planned how we can have the wood and so on. There are a lot of good things that the school experienced by having this feeding program. The school attendance improved a lot. There are more parent involvement. The learners, they enjoyed the porridge and they are eager to come to school.
Miss Maria's children were some of the beneficiaries of the school feeding program when it started. She dwells on the difference the program made in the lives of her children and the benefits to her as a parent.
Ek is hier as 'n ma, ouma vir die kinders, my kleinkinders. My 2 groot kinders is al klaar groot, hulle is getroud, maar ek is hier met my kleinkinders. In getal was hulle 10. Die ander 2etjies is nou by hulle se ma. Die ene is by my suster. Die ene is klaar met sy matriek. Ek het baie kinders hier groot gemaak. My kinders, my niggies se kinders, omdat ons nou nie 'n koshuis het nie, het baie van die mense wat beide was, die kinders het by my gelos. Daai tyd het ek by die skool Marindal Primary gewerk. En ek kan maar sê, baie van hulle het hy program deelgeneem. Voorheen het hulle ons baie gekry, en so was hulle ook baie gretig om dit te eet. Ons het in die verlede het ons nie net mieliemeel gekry nie, ons het sopmix gekry, ons het melk gekry, ons het suiker gekry, ons het visblikkies gekry, en met die was die kinders baie gretig om in die program deel te neem.
Those years it was very difficult. Sometimes you don't know what you have to eat, even a place where you have to sleep. It was very difficult because the thing is you didn't eat for the day, and now you come and the only thing that can help you was the milk of the goat, the milk of the goat, the duck milk as we call it in Afrikaans. So you have a cup of duck milk and then that was for the day. So when I see the first time people are making food there, it was like a manna out of heaven. And I said to myself, okay, now the one problem of mine is solved. So why should I leave the school?
Former Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, Honorable Nahas Angula, a pioneer of the school feeding program, explains the factors that encouraged him as the then Minister of Education to recommend the transformation of the pilot school feeding scheme into the Namibian school feeding program to cabinet.
The school feeding, of course, helps to attract children to school because they will have some food there. In terms of our aspiration towards education for all, in that regard, one can say yes, the school feeding program is making its contribution to education for all by attracting children to come to school every day, and also providing them with some nutritional intakes which fights malnutrition.
A mid-term study during the 4-year startup collaboration in school feeding between the government and the UN World Food Programme from 1992 to 1996 reported that school feeding had had a positive impact on the children who had benefited.
Indeed, there has been a significant impact in terms of the contribution of the school feeding program to retention in school, particularly of the pre-primary, primary level. That was the main focus from the start of the program. You remember that at the time when we took over the program from WFP in 1996, after that first phase where we only had 78,000, we have expanded the program, now benefiting quite a significant number of Namibians. But it has also brought in the active participation, because attendance is one thing, and I come to school just because there's a meal that I'm going to get. But what is it that I'm benefiting as a result of getting that meal in terms of my academic or intellectual development? So we have seen that it has really contributed in increasing the not only access, but the retention span.
The Directorate of Programs and Quality Assurance is the administrative and operational heart of the Namibian school feeding program to scale pan the entire program.
In 2008, with an economic ditch experience, there was a call made by the then His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Namibia, to increase the resource allocation. And that is when the first time around a major boost of funding came towards the school feeding program, and numbers were increased by 100,000 at that time. Now, until now, the numbers have increased to 320,000 beneficiaries. Currently, the school feeding, as it has been the practice over the years, is composed of fortified maize blend, fortified in the sense of that there is a protein component, sugar and salt for the palatability. It becomes more nutritious. It provides for the protein, the starch for the energy, and the protein for the brain development. The provision of meals is to needy learners, but then in general there has been the tendency to rather provide to all in a particular school than to tell the one you may eat, the other one may not eat. Just the mere fact that numbers continue increasing shows you that there's a great need out there. And with the aim to efficiently utilize resources, one needs an appropriate monitoring and evaluation system.
This monitoring system is called the Namibian School Feeding Program Information System, NASIS. For effective implementation and quality assurance, there is a critical need to transmit accurate and up-to-date data via NASIS to ensure accurate planning and provisioning. This will also help to identify and address inefficiencies as early as possible, diversify the food basket to improve variety and nutritional value of the food, and many other aspects to be identified during the implementation process.
Thank you that we have a Nahas system which is helping us to track the movement of all the commodities of the school feeding program, from the protein, salt and sugar supplier to the blender, and from the blender to the transporter, and from the transporter to the school. And even in the school we can still use it because the school have logbooks where they log in and they monitor the movements from the day one they received, how much they have cooked and how much is left. We are able to trace it via the Nahas.